What is up guys, it is Silver here and welcome to another video on the channel, and today I'm going to be telling you guys my review of this year's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. You can see the on-screen results. Not many changes from the Bahrain Grand Prix, even though the race was a little bit more exciting at the start compared to the season opener. But yeah, still quite a few talking points from the race in my opinion, and before you say anything, I am a little bit over recording this, so bear with me. But anyway, here are my 5 key takeaways from this year's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and we're going to start with the man in the thumbnail. Number 1, a masterclass from Sergio Perez, and I don't think you can argue with this at all. It was a brilliant performance from the Mexican from start to finish. He got pole position by just under 2/10 to Charles Leclerc. He ended up leading every single lap, and despite a safety car that I will get to by the end of this video, he still held off his teammate Max Verstappen to take his first win of the new season and his first since Singapore last year. And it turns out that he's slowly turning into a street circuit specialist, winning in Monaco, Singapore, Baku, and now Jeddah for Red Bull Racing to score his 5th win of his career. And honestly, it's well deserved. Honestly, he didn't put a foot wrong in that entire race. So it would have been absolutely awful to see him not being able to win the race. And I actually got one of my predictions right from my last video, which was Red Bull will get a 1-2. And despite the fact Verstappen did start 15th on the grid, they did it anyway. So that Red Bull proving to be really, really clear of the rest of the field. Yeah, it's just unreal what they're doing right now. And I don't think it's going to take much stopping them. I think they're definitely going to seal the championship. Definitely by the end of the season. But the same can't be said for everyone, because takeaway number 2, trouble for McLaren and Ferrari. We're going to start this with McLaren, since I've already talked about Ferrari in the last video. So McLaren, what a mess that they are in at the moment. It was already not looking good for them in pre-season testing, with Norris apparently being pretty frustrated with where their car is compared to the rest of the field. And Oscar Piastri having an absolute stinker of a debut in Bahrain, Norris making 6 pit stops. You know, it just doesn't seem that McLaren are even willing to be serious anymore, considering that they're one of the most successful teams in Formula 1. But what went wrong here in Saudi Arabia? So Piastri managed to qualify P8, which was a great result for him, and I really do think he's going to definitely prove his worth over the course of the season as he grows more confident with the car. Norris unfortunately had a crash in quali, damaged his suspension, couldn't get it fixed in time, and he started 19th. But Piastri suffered damage on the first lap, and Norris ended up fighting him for P15 with Logan Sargent. So I think the pace was there for McLaren, but it's just going to take some time for them to actually get the results together, which is really frustrating because we were literally saying this time last year. And on to Ferrari. I don't really know what to say at this point. You know, we already saw them and their shenanigans last year. This year, they're still proving it, and they've managed to get even slower than they were last year. Not too sure what's going on. We obviously saw them having reliability problems in Bahrain through Leclerc, changing the power units, but even on the hard tyre, just in the second half of the race, they were nowhere compared to Mercedes. And I think it's going to definitely take some time for them to actually get over this and actually go again, because Ferrari, you can't trust them these days. So it's just really frustrating to see both teams not looking like they're really competitive, considering they're 2 staples of Formula 1. So we can only hope that they sort themselves out one way or another, and we see both teams at the front of the field, you know, which is where they are supposed to be. And speaking of Mercedes, they are actually the 3rd takeaway of this race, because I think that they have definitely showed signs of improvement, especially from Bahrain, where they just looked off the pace from Ferrari and Aston Martin. This time they looked like the 3rd quickest car over race pace. That is definitely for sure. Russell did a great job all weekend to secure P3 in qualifying, P3 on the grid, and then he ended up finishing 4th in the race, just missed out on that podium thanks to the whole FIA debacle. Hamilton did another strong performance in the race to finish 5th. He wasn't as quick as his teammate, but his teammate definitely looks the quicker of the 2. I think that is the most obvious thing I can say at this point. But yeah, Russell didn't put a foot wrong. Like Perez, He didn't put a foot wrong, and he rightfully called that one of the strongest weekends in F1. I think he did a great job, and I think he will continue to show that consistency that he did at the start of last season. With Hamilton, I think it's just going to be a matter of time before he really does gel with the car and actually show how good he is, because he's still one of the best drivers on the grid, even at 38. If Alonso could do it at 41, there's no reason that Lewis can't do it at 38 years old. But there is another key takeaway from this, and that is number 4, reliability. Now, this was a key talking point over the course of the weekend. You obviously had Ferrari coming into this weekend with a new power units for both cars. Leclerc taking that 10th place grid penalty for his 3rd control electronics already in the 2nd race of the season. You also had Alex Albon suffering a brake failure during the race as he was really slow going into the pits. You also had Lance Stroll retiring, and I'll get to that in a minute. And you even had the reigning champion Verstappen suffering a drive shaft failure. Started 15th, recovered to 2nd, but wasn't happy about it because he says he's not here to finish 2nd, and he called on Red Bull to fix their reliability problems, which could end up halting his charge for his 3rd consecutive World Championship, which is obviously what he's going for, as he's definitely the best driver on the grid at the moment, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, reliability affecting teams up and down the field, and don't be surprised if it crops up again in the following races as teams try to nail this down as soon as possible. But the final takeaway of this is number 5, another stinker from the FIA. Now, this one is just weird. I'm going to try and explain this the best way I can, so if you do get confused, I don't really blame you, because I don't really understand this either. But I mentioned the Lance Stroll retirement with that little clip of him parking over through the banking section. Apparently the FIA thought that that was a good idea to give us that a safety car instead of a VSC, as Stroll's car was nowhere near the corner and it wouldn't have affected anybody. So that's the first thing I had a problem with. The second thing was the whole Fernando Alonso thing during and after the race, as Alonso got a 5-second penalty for incorrectly parking on the grid before the race, which is fine, you can't be doing that. Ocon got penalised for that as well in Bahrain. And then they incorrectly served the pit stop at Aston Martin, which would have been a 5-second penalty, but they decided to give a 10-second penalty for it after the race. And then George Russell was temporarily 3rd, and then they decided to overturn the decision, which means Alonso does get his 100th podium in Formula 1. It was so confusing that they've even said that going into Australia, that they're going to clarify the rule ahead of the race after they caused their own drama. I don't really know what to say at this point. The FIA obviously over the past 2-3 years have made some very questionable decisions that have got people really baffled at the rules. It's clear that they can't even make rules and stick to them properly. So yeah, really baffling stuff from the FIA, and honestly, it really wouldn't surprise me if we went on to see more questionable decisions made by the FIA. But that, guys, is going to be the end of today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more IRL F1 content covering the sport in real life. I appreciate the feedback so far, so any more feedback down below would be highly appreciated to see if I can improve these videos anymore. And I'll see you guys in the next race. So until then, take care. I'll see you all in the next one.